This review has been approved by Lord Carnage.
Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the Intergalactic Space Arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room, where I bring you the review of Star Wars Super Bombad Racing, where you can race as Obi Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul, Yoda, and this guy.
Mr. Bestest Racer.
Oh dear. So Jonathan from Irvine, California sent me a game with Jar Jar Binks in it. John, that's punishable in many parts of the galaxy by having an arm chopped off with a lightsaber. But that's okay, you said all hail Lord Carnage in your letter, which spares your arms, although you may be frozen in carbonite later. For this is Star Wars Super Bombad Racing, which features all of the Episode 1 characters that you know and love, like Jar Jar Binks and that little kid version of Anakin. In this wacky Star Wars themed kart racer Mario Kart clone based on Star Wars Episode 1. One of my favorite movies. Love it. I love the part when they try to explain the Force using scientific terms. It's great. But most of all, I love Jar Jar. Hey, at least you can shoot him in this game and run him into things. The fact is, Star Wars Super Bombad Racing, being played here on the PlayStation 2, is not nearly as bad as it sounds. It's actually pretty fun, provided you can look past all the Episode 1 crap. In case you guessed it, I was being sarcastic earlier. Star Wars Super Bombad Racing took me by surprise because I thought Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was the only racing game based on Star Wars Episode 1. And I like that game. This one is clearly aimed at a younger audience, but it still plays pretty well. For starters, the controls aren't bad at all. It plays like a basic kart racing game, except you can jump and hop around a little bit, collect a bunch of weapons, and there's even some underwater parts. Considering how many unkind things I've had to say about Episode 1 over the years, I've always complimented the music, which is excellent. And I appreciate their wacky take on the Star Wars and Episode 1 themes here in the game. It fits the style perfectly, but the best part of the game is the track designs, which are really good for a kart racing game. And when you combine that with solid controls, you've got a game that can almost escape the Death Star tractor beam-like gravitational pull of Jar Jar's suckitude, but not entirely. There's a lot of weapon power-ups, but what you'll really want in this game is the turbo boost. Go out of your way to collect those, they come in handy. And then there's Jar Jar. Why did the game have to have why does Jar Jar have to exist at all? If I could just go back in time and change one thing, I would add a scene early on in Episode 1 where Godzilla shows up and eats Jar Jar while stomping on Anakin, going, "Icky, icky, goo!" And then just splice Spaceballs into the rest of the movie. Problem solved. In addition to the championship mode, there's an arena battle mode and some local multiplayer. If you have the multi-tap, you can even race with up to 3 of your friends, all of whom should hate Jar Jar. This track is actually pretty tough. I would say don't knock this game before you try it. It's not too bad. Sure, it's got the whole Episode 1 thing, but really the track designs and the controls and the music are pretty good. It's a good racing game for kids. It's really cheap, so if your kids are into this stuff, into Star Wars games and racing games, get on this one. I think they'll enjoy it. Just make sure to teach them about Jar Jar and why he's awful, and that the prequels don't even exist at all. Just ignore them completely. You're really better off showing your kids the animated episodes of Star Trek and teaching them that Uhura and Spock are Luke's parents. And on that note, I've got a huge Classic Game Room shout out and thank you to Jonathan from Irvine, California. Thank you for sending Star Wars Super Bombad Racing.